Hi, everyone. This is Mesha with As Long as You're Breathing, Keep Living. And this is an Every Life is a Story event, and it is a special one because we've only been trying to do this now since Every Life is a Story came into existence. Finally, she's in the hot seat. Melissa Talwar, how are you, girl?
I'm doing pretty good. And look, I wore my fancy jacket. For those of you who know, I don't dress up often.
Yes, you did. You wore your jacket and your hair is not purple. Hello, Estelle. Thank you for joining us. Glad to have you.
I need to get back to my purple hair. I haven't had a haircut in over a year, so I have to dye it myself then for a little bit.
Well, before we get into everything, I want to say hello to everyone who joins us live. And if you have any questions, do put them in the chat. You have to have your settings enabled for StreamYard to show what you have to say. So do that, or I'm not ignoring you. If you're not enabled, I won't see them. So do enable it so I see them. And if I seem to be ignoring you, that's what the problem is. And if you are joining us as a replay, do tag us so that we get your questions and we will see them and get back to you. And we're happy to have you, whether you're here live or watching it replay. We are glad to have you either way. And what I tend to do with these is I don't talk a whole lot. I just kind of turn the guests loose and let the guests say whatever they want to. So without further ado, the founder of the Support Fibromyalgia Network, biohacker extraordinaire, and just all around good person, just doggone good person and incredible friend, Melissa Talwar. Tell us your story, Melissa.
Oh, that's such a sweet intro. And of course, like, you got the quiet person we need you to talk to. So hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Talwar. I am the executive director of the Support Fibromyalgia Network, and I'm also a board certified functional medicine health coach. I'm excited to be here and share my story with you. I know Mesha has been bugging me to share, and so it's a difficult journey to share, so I'm going to try as concisely as possible. I'm getting a little bit better at it, but I was always one of those kids that seemed like they were allergic to everything. So it started out as young, being allergic to grass and sand, it seemed. I had severe growing pains, but nothing that slowed me down chronically. I was definitely your typical overachiever, especially when it came to science and math in school.
No, not you.
I loved science and medicine, so I was always reading. I was reading from an early age, all the medical books, so I loved it. So academically and even sports. I played sports for sure. I did pretty well at track and field. Was an Olympic hopeful at 16. But at 14 years old, I sustained a sports injury with, now I'm making sense of it, a concussion, which tipped me over into a point of living with debilitating chronic pain, fatigue, and brain fog. I later got a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, but it didn't make a difference on any of my treatments because I was going through that path of being overloaded with medications. Doctors didn't know what was going on. I used a lot of mobility devices, predominantly spent a lot of time homebound, bedbound, but just tried to thrive through life as best as possible. Right. Worked in the music industry for a while because I could go on a cyclical path. In spring and summer, I was able to get some energy to go on the road with bands. And then for the latter half of the year, I'd be bedbound with no energy, but it kind of worked because a lot of bands weren't touring in the winter. So it worked out for me, and that's how I kind of survived for a long time. In my 30s, I started to get diagnosed with something autoimmune. Again, they still did not know what to do with me. And I was told by a doctor that my body was just shutting down. So I better just enjoy my life with the time that I had left. So I didn't know what to do with that, and neither did my family. But, I was determined to figure it out with whatever little brain power I had left. So I started biohacking myself. And what I learned through functional medicine principles was that I had a lot of power that I had given up to all these doctors. I was running around from doctor to doctor. I'd come back crying because they had no answers, but I didn't realize I had much more power and still some brain power left to help myself. So that's what got me here. And this is a new version of me. I feel healthier than I ever have before. And that's why I'm on a path and determined mission to help those in the fibromyalgia community face towards wellness. So thank you for letting me be on your show.
Are you kidding? I've only been trying to drag you on it for how long now? Okay, so I guess for those who don't know, what is biohacking?
There's a different definition out there, and a lot of times it gets a bad name too. I'm not talking about inserting CRISPR or changing my genetics by genetically engineering. So what I had to do was a lot of lifestyle changes for biomedical type chemical processes. I started studying my genetics, my SNPs. But for me, biohacking meant empowering myself. I mean, fortunately, I have a science background, so I took whatever knowledge I could from people like Dr. Terry Walls, Dr. Dale Bredesen, and I combined it all together, ran my own lab test, figured out my blood values for optimizing my system, and got my health back.
So what kind of blood values were you looking at?
A lot of inflammation. Inflammation gets underestimated quite a bit in fibromyalgia. But again, like I didn't put two and two together for the longest time that I had a head injury that definitely wasn't treated back then. I mean, this was the 90s, so we weren't taking care of head injuries the same way.
Right.
So that contribution to inflammation and all those things. And of course, I was not eating, I was carb heavy because of the track and fields back then, and medications, which were not anti-inflammatory, a lot of painkillers and stuff back then too, and combinations of things that they would not prescribe anyone these days. It just kept contributing to inflammation, stressed out all the time as well. So inflammation markers were a key. Glucose. I know for different age groups, they're like, oh, you're fine. Your A1C, it's not that bad. But for me, all my values were either low or high, and then even slightly out of range. But all the doctors were like, don't worry. You're just too young to have these things. And I was like, but I feel terrible.
Right. Right. And that is something that we see. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. That is something we see a lot with what we have, is we go in with so many symptoms, so many complaints, and they run our lab work, and it's like it's off a little, but not off enough to worry them. And it's not their bodies, not them living with it. Because that's what I've run into, like with my kidneys. You know, they were fine watching what was happening, but now here I am with stage 3 renal disease because of it. You know, and so it's like it's not happening to them. So they watch it and they're like, oh, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And if we don't know and we don't watch it ourselves, and I know that's one of the things that you're very passionate about, is us being educated and know what to look for ourselves, because it's like the medical community, I don't think they do it to be negligent. I don't think it's anything like that. I just think they're overwhelmed with, we go in with so many symptoms and so many things for them to look at. And they do kind of look at us and they're like, no, don't worry about that one, you know, because it's like they can only deal with one thing at a time, sort of that kind of thing. And it's like, but it's a whole picture. It's not one thing. It's the whole picture. And if you don't deal with the whole picture, you're not dealing with what's wrong with us, because that is what's wrong with us, is the whole picture. It's not like we stubbed our toe. What's going on with us is it's the whole body. It's the whole thing happening at the same time.
Right. And working on prevention and like other things, empowering us to do the lifestyle changes that we can do before we get to a full-blown diagnosis is helpful. I mean, there's a great TED talk from Dr. Chatterjee, and he talks about this. It's like getting to the root cause of the disease. So like in my 30s, they told me, the rheumatologist said, I think you have something in addition to fibromyalgia. I think it's autoimmune. You have starting to show the markers. You have extra symptoms. But she told me to come back in 3 to 5 years when it's full blown, so I can get a diagnosis and just like take the painkillers right now and then just come back. And I was like, what? So you're kind of like, now I'm waiting around for a diagnosis, but what can I do to even prevent that? So how can we help people? You know, we don't want these full blown chain of diagnosis. So it's like, can we do something to help you right now? And that's the big mission.
Because I would say that's pretty much what happened to me. Is I went to doctors for years saying, I'm not well, something's not right. And for years, I just kept gradually getting worse until finally it was full blown. And so I would say that is exactly what happened to me. But of course, back then, there were people diagnosing fibromyalgia, but when they did diagnosis, it was a full-blown, pretty much psych diagnosis as far as they were concerned. A few doctors not, but for the most part, Estella's saying we are the experts in our bodies. Yes, we are. And I like that she said in our bodies, not of our bodies or about our bodies, because that is the truth. And that applies to all conditions. And that is something that, and that's why I like that you reach across the lines. You don't stick to just fibromyalgia people, because what we're talking about does apply to not just invisible illness either. It applies to all conditions across the boards. We are the experts of our bodies, in our bodies. So yes, Estelle, that's very good.
Exactly. With anyone struggling with health, I mean, this is just embodies the whole thing that we need to get to health care, not sick care. And I don't think our providers have been trained like that, which is like, we need to build better relationships with them. And it's changing, it's moving in the right direction, which I'm excited about, but we still got to like have some patience for them. But in the meantime, we don't have to give up that power that we have. So, I mean, that's where it's like, take control. We're educated. Like, here's the information. It's out there. It's all over that place. So I'm trying to just funnel it in for people and try to make sense of it, because there is a lot of science. And especially, I mean, Estella knows, or we talk a lot about it. I think with our trip to DC, I was rambling off MTHFR and all these SNPs and how I did my genetic panel. And I'm like, I feel vindicated, because I have a slow genetic processing system I was born with. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense now.
Yeah, and the trip to DC was great, and the more of those that you can do, the better. But so explain, how did you get to DC? Because how you got to DC is your organization. So explain, how do you have an organization? How did all that come about?
Julie Ryan from Counting My Spoons wrote the best blog ever about how this would happen, because I was on the road in 2016. And what I wanted to find out was there a need for another nonprofit? Like, what was going on where there was a need to contribute back to the community? So I went across the country and I met with different advocates who are bloggers, support group leaders. And I just asked them, what resources are you getting? What do you feel the community needs right now? So I collected a lot of answers, and I teamed up with people like Brandy, who at first was a struggle because she thought I was a spammer and who's this weird purple girl that wants to meet with me for coffee and tea. But it was great because I heard from her. She had a lot to say about what was going on, and Julie had a lot of feedback as well. So this was marketing research on like, what do we need? What do we need to do? Because 20 years, I mean, getting this diagnosis in like 1994 and going through it, I see the comments, and I used to volunteer for other organizations. So I would read the letters from people in the community, and it would make me cry, and I'd see the comments online and I'd struggle. I was like, what is going on? What do we need to like address this? Like right now, I was very impatient. So, so in 2017, the goal was to fill in the gaps for the fibromyalgia community, but I found that there's a lot of gaps. So we got 501c3 status in 2017, and a group of us were working together to try to make this happen. And Julie connected us together again.
Yes.
And so I dragged you in with some other people, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate everyone that trusted the process when it came to going to DC, because I was determined. I mean, you heard me. I mean, everyone out there, Meisha, heard me constantly. We got to do something. Like, I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, we got to let people know that we're fighting for them out there. And so I appreciate everyone that trusted for the first trip, because, I had never gone to Capitol Hill before, but I believed that we had to make a statement and let people in the community know fibromyalgia was ready to fight again. So we did it.
We did, and we made an impact too. I mean, we were there and they knew it. By the time we got to like the third meeting that day, it was like, you're the fibromyalgia people. I mean, they knew who we were, I mean, we were making a difference. We did make a difference. And so absolutely, it was very, it was a very impactful trip. For first time up on Capitol Hill, we did make a difference. And so you did a great job. Fantastic job.
Well, I couldn't have done it without all of you. I mean, Estella and Juana and Cassidy and Isabella and Meisha was holding. I mean, to everyone know, I have anxiety upon anxiety. So to have Meisha like energy calming me down with all the stuff you see, because my stomach was tight, because I didn't want to let you guys down. I didn't want to fail you. You trusted to go to DC, and I mean, it's like, we got to do this. So I appreciate all of us and our strength together as a community. It was great.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was, but you had the vision to do it, support Fibromyalgia Network, and the network does something that other fibromyalgia networks has not done. You reach out and you don't limit us to just fibromyalgia. You understand that invisible illnesses need to bind together and work together. And Estelle, who's here with us, she represents lupus, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Stella is diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but Juana has fibromyalgia and lupus, and then she had daughters managing chronic pain as well. So it's for them, it's a family-related situation.
Right. And I do think that matters, is that we do reach across the lines, and because so often there's more than one illness. You know, it's not just fibromyalgia, there are other things going on. But also I do think that it helps that when the conversation is bigger, when we're talking all invisible illness, because I do know that you're big on the injustice being done to all people with invisible illness. I do know that you're the fighter. You're the one that wants to see justice done. You want our voices heard. And I know that that's what drives you. And so, but you seem just so, you seem really up and energized and ready for the fight now. So what do you have going on these days? What's got the spark in you these days?
Well, we're back on a virtual tour, so we're interviewing advocates across from different communities. We have a lot of lupus. We're going to interview some MS warriors for March and just other advocates in action. I mean, I was fortunate to get enrolled in Patients Rising, so I'm learning a lot about advocacy policy. And again, Looms for Lupus has included me, so I'm learning stuff from My Patients' Rights and Liz Helms. We had an interview there. We are going to do a virtual advocacy day on Capitol Hill. So this is the first announcement ever. So on your...
All right, I got the scoop.
Yes, it's a scoop. It's in the working. So we have a big meeting next week to just pick the dates, and it's
awesome.
Our goal is to have it in May. Hopefully everything goes right with that. Just around fibromyalgia awareness, and then my health coaching is taking off, so I'm excited. I got to train with Dr. Terry Walls, and I continue to train with her, and I continue to do my training for Apollo Health. So a lot of learning.
Okay, so you do have your own health coaching business now, yes?
Yes,
okay,
correct.
Tell us about that.
I do health coaching individually for fibromyalgia and autoimmune conditions. I'm very intrigued by brain health, so I did do a training with Apollo Health, and they have new training coming up for the Bredesen protocol. But I love their system because I geek out because they give you a report, which I would love to have for everyone, because the report actually gives you a focused area. So do you need to focus more on inflammation? Do you have more of a toxin exposure, like mycotoxins with mold, Lyme disease, or are you having to manage nutritional deficiencies? So I like that the report kind of it tells you what to start with for your provider, because it's so confusing when we have complex things going on. Yes. That it's nice for the provider to know, oh, this person should start here. So I love that report. So I'm excited. As a health coach, I get to be a part of that. And Dr. Terry Walls is always amazing and inspiring to train from. I'm doing group coaching for a new company. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name yet, but that's exciting because it's covered by insurance. For group health coaching, we had two new groups start yesterday. So that is fantastic. But just stay active. Again, I manage being a health coach and a health advocate because I want people to get the proper care they need.
Well, and I think what you're saying about how this the health coaching that you're doing generates this report, which gives the doctor a place to start. That goes back to what you and I were saying earlier about the problem of the doctors not necessarily knowing where to start and saying, well, just live with it until enough has happened that we have a diagnosis for you. So we've now come to a point, we've kind of come full circle where processes are being put in place to do exactly what we were saying needed to be done, which is don't do that. We've lived through that, been there, done that, got the plenty of t-shirts about it. We got all kinds of t-shirts about it. Don't need any more t-shirts about it. We want t-shirts that say we have beat it. That's the t-shirts we want now. So that's what you're saying, really, is that's the point that you're at. That's where you're at with things, is that you are identifying, start here, do this step first, start here. So, of course, everything right now is virtual, but even if we weren't in a virtual world, would your health coaching be virtual, or would it be both? Could it be virtual or live? I mean, how does your health coaching work?
It can be both. I mean, I loved being on the road for the fibromyalgia tour. We were having workshops. So now that I'm actually gaining more confidence too as a health coach, we can offer that stuff in person once we can do those types of events. So, I mean, I'm just thrilled to be able to be that person for a lot of the community, and it's exciting work. Especially what's coming for like brain health, which I'm fascinated with. But it's just, I mean, I like to execute. You've worked with me, so sometimes I skip some steps in the process, but as long as we like get it done, I'm all about getting it done.
Yeah. Well, and that is needed. I mean, it is very possible to be able to look at a process and see, okay, these steps aren't needed, and jump ahead. We like to call it quantum leaping, and that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with quantum leaping. When you can see that something can be done that way, then do it that way. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and you have the vision to do that. So that's a good thing. There has been so much, I've been at this a long time. I've been dealing with the fibromyalgia stuff in the online world for a long time. And we got way too bogged down in, well, you got to take this step, then that step, then this step. We got way too bogged down in that. As a matter of fact, it was to the point that if you tried to come online and help people just online, it was almost like, well, who are you to come online and do that? And so the fact that you are, well, that's kind of why you're here, is because those of us who came on the scene and said, wait a second, what do you mean? Who are we to be here to try to do this? That was part of the problem, is that we had entered into this, everything was bogged down and there wasn't any movement being done. And so it was time for us to do some quantum leaping. It was time for us to stop being just in the process mode and actually take action and do some things, because we had really gotten bogged down in that. We'd gotten bogged down in raising money for research. Then what? And that's just the truth of the matter. And I'll make that statement. You don't have to go out on the limb and make it. I'll make it, because that is where we were at for a good many years. And that's not where we need to be. Do we need money for research? Absolutely. But then once we have money and research is being done, then we have to take action upon it. We have to have actionable steps, and we have to be out in the communities doing these actionable steps. And if we're not doing that, then what good is the money for the research? Raising money for research for the sake of raising money for research is not. And that is the mess that I was caught up in before you came along with the fresh blood. And that really just I was kind of like threw my hands up and I'm like, what are we doing here? Because it was almost impossible to move forward. We were really in a quagmire in fibro world, to be perfectly honest. It had become a quagmire, and you came in and shook that up. So that is one of the things that you need to take credit for, is you came in and shook that up. I was there, shaking the bushes and making a lot of noise and frankly pissing people off, but you came in and you initiated change. And so, that is a great thing.
I mean, that's because we forgot about the people doing the work. So this was about working with advocates around the country.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is about working with advocates across the country to support what you were doing.
Yeah, once you hit the road and started talking to everybody, talk about raising some eyebrows. You got some attention, girl, when you did that. You absolutely got some attention when you did that. But that's what was needed. Boots on the ground, talking to the people. That is what was needed. That was very much needed, for sure, no doubt about it. And then that's the information that needed to be taken to Washington. that's when it was time to go to Washington and say, hey, guess what? We've talked to the people, and this is what we know for sure, and that's the data that we had to take too, is we've talked to the people. And so, no, definitely the approach that you take with it and the mindset that you take with it, definitely you go with a warrior approach. You go in with fighting, that's for sure. But you're fighting for what you know to be true because you are with the people and coming at it from that approach. And do you want more money for research? Absolutely you do. But you want the research dollars then to be targeted in, and you have your fingers in all these different places that are identifying where action can be taken. And so really you've taken how fibromyalgia was being addressed on a national level and you flipped it. And that's what you've done. That's what you did with the organization that you created. And I don't think you realize that you did that, but that's not how it was being done. The way it was being done, because I've been at it a long time, so I know the way it was being done was we were raising money for research, and then we were putting information online and putting some tools out there, and then raising some more money and telling people do more, do more, do more. Here's some tools to do it with, and go to your doctor and tell your doctor, educate your doctor. And we were just telling people what to do. But then you went out and you got in the grassroots and you got involved with actionable plans and actionable organizations that were coming up. And then you flipped it all around and went to Washington and said, this is what we need the money for because these are the actions we can take. And then you reached out and you got involved with other invisible illness organizations. And so you flipped that. Now we're not raising money just to be raising money and put more stuff online and tell people, go do this, go tell your doctor and go do this. Now you go to Washington and you're like, and look here's all these actions we can do. And that was not being done before. I promise you it wasn't being done before. So that's the difference. And
I need to hire Meisha for my PR. Okay, you're hired. This is the best. I don't need to say anything. I just put Meisha in. This is awesome. I couldn't say that about any. I didn't know.
Well, but that is what you did because, I was there before you came. I was there when you came, and I've been here now. And I know the quagmire that I was caught up in and the battle that I was fighting and why I was like, and the reason that you and I connected and the reason why I said, yeah, I'll go with you. I'll help you. And, and so, and that's the change that has been made is we're no longer raising money just to raise money. We're no longer just putting information online. You're grassroots and you're involved with organizations that have identified actionable steps that are making a difference. And that's what you're raising the money for. You want to raise money, yes, for research, but you want to raise money to actually impact these actionable steps that can be taken. And that was not being done before. And in all fairness too, before, we maybe did not have enough information for that at that time, but it was time to pivot to this. And I think you caused that pivot to happen with the energy that you brought into it. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's been tough because I tend to, my whole life, see things a little differently. And I have to get people on board with ideas, which is, it's difficult when your ideas are, people tell you don't do it. I mean, I was told that fibromyalgia patients do not care about advocacy, do not bother wasting your time. That's what I was told before we went. And I was like, do I listen? And we had that conversation too. I was like,
yeah.
What do I do with this? What do I process? I don't believe it. So what do I do with this? Are they right? Were they wrong? And so everyone tried to detour us from doing this. So,
well, I think what fibromyalgia people didn't care about where advocacy was concerned was the way it was being done. Because what I told you was what they don't care about is having all this stuff thrown at them and being told, here, add this to what you're doing.
Right. No one wants that. We're tired.
You're tired. Right.
Brain fog. I can't do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just add this to what you're doing, and add this to you going and educating the doctor and you being the doctor, but not getting anything back from it. And so that was the problem. So it wasn't that fibromyalgia people didn't want advocacy. They wanted effectiveness. That's what they wanted. And so that's where the issue was. And so you came with a different vision, a different approach. and it met resistance, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I know it's been a battle. I know it's been an uphill battle. I've watched. I know. I've been there and I've watched, and I know it has been. But you've braved it well. You've done well. I know but you've done well with
it. It's worth it because we're fighting for something we believe in. I mean, I know I took notes as I was bedbound of the things that I saw and changes that needed to happen. I just didn't have any capacity to do it. So as soon as I got my health back, I was like, I am focused. This is my bucket list. I cannot leave people behind. We talked about this with the mosh pit queen. Nobody, if someone falls down, we pick them up. So I'm on the road trip to like pick everyone up. Let's go.
Well, speaking of road trips, I'm ready for COVID to be over so we can actually do road trips. But until it's over, I know that you're having to do everything virtually. So you have Washington is going to be in May. That's going to be virtual. Is Support Fibro? Do you have other things coming up? Do you have other things planned right now, or are you so tied up with all the coaching and things? Is that what you're doing right now?
We had the Fibromyalgia Impact Tour, which we were granted from the Healthy Voices. I know we were supposed to be on the road in 2019 or 2020 in person. So we had to switch everything. So a lot of this is talking about food insecurity and quality of life within fibromyalgia and autoimmune conditions. And we're trying to get to know people in different states. We had a great conversation with the Louisiana Lupus Foundation. We talked about lupus and fibromyalgia, food insecurity, food access. Like, are they able to get to the stores to get what they need? Can they afford fresh fruits and vegetables? Like all of those conversations that we kind of glaze over a little bit, probably too much in our community. So we're addressing that. We're going to bring in researchers. We're going to bring in medical providers. And of course, we're talking to the advocates on the ground floor right now and getting information from them.
Right. Great.
Oh, and Echo, training of medical providers is going to be all virtual. It was all virtual before. So working diligently to get that done because we need to train our primary care now that rheumatologists are no longer, it's moving towards that they're no longer going to be treating fibromyalgia. So they're deferring to pain specialists, primary care. And we've never educated primary care about fibromyalgia before.
This is true. And my rheumatologist that I had in this area, I have not reconnected with since I moved back here. My rheumatologist back up home when I was there, that rheumatologist had moved. And so I am actually dealing with primary care here is what I'm doing. And so that's what I'm kind of in the midst of deciding is, okay, do I want to try going back to the rheumatologist? Because as you know, I do everything with meditation, no medication. So the primary care and I, we've been talking about that is, okay, how do we want to handle this? So there is a shift in all of that. And how do we handle that? And the thing of it is, it really is people like us. It is the patient. It is the one with it that is making that decision.
Well, and I see a great bridge now between not only health coaches, but patients. So we educate the patient. We can go to primary care physicians and we can try to work together to catch them up, like from the ground level. Like this is a good working relationship. I know that they may not be fully trained on fibromyalgia and everything in the latest and greatest, but there's still stuff that they can work on together and help us. I mean, they can keep track of blood values and tests and those things for general health. And we can work on our lifestyle, like meditation and movement, nutrition and stuff like that. So we can actually work. This is a good transition if we acknowledge it, to not be upset with them, but we can work with them and make a difference. And hopefully it ends up where it's like full wide medical providers are trained, which would be excellent. But in the meantime, we have a lot of information we can share with each other.
It is a good time to do it because it's not a group of doctors who are expected to know about it. It's a group that aren't expected to know. So it's okay for them to say, well, I don't know. So, that makes it's comfortable to say, I don't know. And so it's also comfortable to say, well, you all are the experts on it. So you tell me. So it gives everybody an excuse to switch roles, kind of, sort of, so it's a great opportunity to open up the dialogue, I guess is what to say. But it's also, we've come to a time where I know I have a friend who is in pain management right now, and she walked in the door and the first thing they started talking about was energy and meditation and grounding and centering and all of these things, along with medical jargon too. And so then I came along behind and start talking to her about the same things. And she's like, my pain management doctor's using those words too. And I'm like, seriously? And I was like on cloud nine to hear that, because I think we are realizing that we can't separate all of that out. And so, and I think health coaching, many of the health coaches are realizing that too. And so I think we are truly finally going to be really integrated and holistic. I don't think we're going to stop with, I think alternative medicine is truly going to go all the way. And I think it's going to be, I think we're going to be all the way into the metaphysical even, which I don't think we can divide the two up. I think there has to be a balance of all of it. I don't think we shut the patient down at any option. And I think that we have to have it all there. And so I think this is a great point in time for that. And so it's a time where it's wide open, you know.
Exactly. And a good time to work all together. Like you mentioned different modalities that some of us have strength in, and others, you know, we can refer people to,
right,
which is wonderful. So, you know, if I'm dug deep into more biochemical processes or helping someone be a health advocate, then they need other things later on, or some people need other things right away. So it's a great way as a community to come together and help from our perspective as well.
Absolutely. And it's a great time to start breaking down all of those walls and just agreeing not to put them up, you know. And unfortunately, I was a part of putting them up because I was so into Western medicine. And so, you know, because that's where I came from and what I was a part of. So now I don't care what modality somebody uses. And so I'm not espousing any particular one. I'm just saying don't put any walls up. You know, when we go in there now and we say there are these options, don't limit any options. Say these are all the options so everybody knows what they are, and then they can pick and choose from all of them. Because I thought I was protecting the people who followed me. You know, I thought, okay, those things can't be real, because I didn't think they were real. And so I literally thought I was protecting people, and that wasn't my job to do. My job was really to make sure they knew about every option. And so this is a great point in time to be sure that we're doing that. And so I just now I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. Now I want people to know about everything, and I don't want to push any modality on anybody, but I want them to know about all of them. And so it's a good point in time to do that as well. And so it's a great point in history. It's a unique time. It really is.
Well, I think if we can learn to come together as community and like make these changes together, it'll be super important, because there has been a lot of stress last year. It was really stressful, but we can come to a point where we just help each other and help each other heal through all of this.
Okay, so we've talked a whole lot about you and work. We've done a whole lot of that, but there's a whole lot more to you and your story than that. So what else do you want to tell us about Melissa Talwar? Because she's a very interesting person. You mentioned a little bit about sports. So I believe if we looked at like in logos and stuff like that, we might see an Olympic torch or something like that. What's that all about?
I thought it was more Sheldon-like, so all I did was work.
No, we can't have somebody with an Olympic torch and not talk about it. I mean, you're not going to get away with that, girl.
I should have kept it nearby. I would have shown it. So I have my Olympic torch in 1996. I was an Olympic hopeful for California. So in track and field, I got to carry the Olympic torch in the 1996 relay down in San Diego. So it was definitely thrilling. I got my 5 minutes of fame with people taking pictures. I had escorts from the firefighters, and, you know, it was a fun run to hold the torch and not burn my hair up. So, I mean, I was thrilled. I was 15 years old.
Well, and that is an amazing thing. And then to have gone from that to being bedridden and told that, you know, okay, you're hitting 30 here and your body's shutting down. And an Olympic hopeful doesn't take those things laying down, and you didn't. And so that's what I think. To me, whenever I see that that image that you all sometimes use, you know, of you with the torch, the silhouette, you know, I think, you know, that person was not going to just let all this she wasn't going to do that. She wasn't going to stand for that. That person is a fighter. That person is strong. That person's a leader. That person is to me, that's kind of like you, like, come on, everybody, it's this way. Let's go. Washington, D.C. is this way.
I'm an introvert. I do not like attention. So when people say leader, that makes me nervous quite a bit.
It does.
But I've always been an overachiever, so but I think like if I didn't have a lot of distractions, I'd probably be the one doing all the research in the like basement of my room, experimenting to find a cure for fibromyalgia for all I know. But there's different things on the table. I mean, I can't be an introvert, so it's like or maybe a recluse. I can still be an introvert, but I can't just disappear.
Well, I think I think sometimes we don't understand what a leader necessarily is. A leader isn't necessarily the person who's the most vocal or the most, it's the person who has the vision and sees the need and can't be quiet, even though it may be against their nature, but they still can't be quiet. And I've heard you say many times, I'm not comfortable with this, and I don't, this isn't what I like to do, but you can't not do it. And so that's a leader. You can't not do it because it's your heart.
Right. I just didn't think that you have so much anxiety before you go and speak in front of people. You saw me, I was like, that's just, I'll be like running to the bathroom. I told you all, like, look for me. If you can't find me, like, go check the restroom before we go to do these events, because it's just like nervousness, stomach and knots.
Oh, Estelle is freaking out over here. That's amazing. Wait, that's you in that silhouette? Estelle didn't know. So see, I knew you weren't telling this to people. Yes, Estelle, that's her in that silhouette. That's her. Yes, that's right. And Estelle is saying the leader doesn't always lead from the front or be loud. It's the one that supports and takes us from point A to point B. And that's exactly right. The leader is the one that's willing to be the grassroots person, the one that's out there and willing to take a whole year and go all across the country and find out what's needed. I mean, that's leadership. That's, you've led in maybe a non-traditional way, because as everything I said earlier, they were all leaders doing it all in the traditional way, and you flipped it over, and flip it over is what was needed. It was time to shake it up, and that's what you did. And so, yeah, you're a leader.
We're embracing the nerdy side. So
embracing the nerdy side. There you go. That's exactly it.
All you guys needed was a nerd. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's more to you than that too. I mean,
vegetable gardening. I finally have a hobby. So I grow my own food, and I learned to do that slowly and steadily from chronic pain, with starting with small containers, and now built up to raised beds. So that is what I do a lot of when I go outside. It helped a lot, actually.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Now, wait a minute. You're saying I finally have a hobby and I'm growing vegetables, but actually, this is all very therapeutic and fits into the fact of, one, it's healthy for you to eat, and two, it's healthy for you to do. So there's a whole lot more to you having this vegetable garden than just a hobby.
Well, it started out of, again, an act of rebellion, because I had gained weight with medication changes. I gained like 60 pounds within 5 months. And I kept seeing at every tier, my doctors were like, I was asking them, I'm a little concerned with this weight gain. Oh, don't worry. So it's like, I'm like, then by 60 pounds extra, I'm like, okay. And then they're like, oh, well, it's just your metabolism slowing down. I mean, you're in your 30s now. And they're like, what you should do? You should eat organic and go exercise. And I was like, so I'm just like, I'm going to start growing my own food. So I had worked with people that did that. So I gained a lot of experience, and that's what I did, which was the start of it. But it's been super helpful for me to go outside. It's my form of movement, because I don't really enjoy other forms. Like, I used to walk and run before, and I'm huffing and puffing like this. I'm throwing dirt like around with the bags. I'm digging in the dirt, putting some visualization to it. If I'm bothered that day by something, I'll visualize and like let it leave through the plant so I can bloom something much nicer. So
you're transmuting negative energy. That's what I hear you saying. You're transmuting negative energy.
And I was able to get into flow just being in the garden. I would get lost with the garden, And
Mhm.
for a while, so I'd be out there and I'd be like, oh, wow, the time really did go for a while, just being out there. I lost track of time.
Um, I'm sorry, just a moment.
No problem.
Yeah, no, it is a problem actually.
Oh, no. Do you have to run? Is it
No,
emergency?
I don't know what it is. There's some kind of alarm went off, and I don't know what because I'm new here, so I'm like, what is that beeping? I don't know what it is. So,
Oh, no. I mean, my fight or flight with on the road. So I'm being,
so I have no idea. I don't think it's a fire alarm, so I don't know because it just went off once, and so I'm like, okay, what is that? I don't know what it is. It went off once. Did you hear it beep? I had one beep, and that's it. So I don't know. So okay, it's quit. So I don't think it's a fire alarm. So I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay.
intermission. I know this is where like the fight or flight system be like, oh, do you have to go? You have to run.
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm all right. I don't smell smoke or anything. I don't hear sirens. I think I'm good.
That was one thing I was afraid of because Brandy saw me on different trips. Like we had to be evacuated a couple times from the hotel. So Brandy was just like, is this going to happen in DC with you, Mel? Like, I was like, no, no,
Right.
no. But then in the bottom's like, please don't, nothing go wrong. Please don't.
Mm-hmm.
But we made it through. So, like I said, I appreciate all of you taking that journey. And we went back in March, actually, last year with all of this COVID stuff. So,
Yeah.
Estella and Juana and Cassidy and Isabella were there just like leading the charge for us.
Yeah. Right before all the COVID stuff broke out. Yeah. I know y'all did. Yeah. That was and were all the leaders there for did you get to meet with them? Or did COVID prevent that? I didn't get to go on that one, so I wasn't sure how that one turned out.
Well, I was actually trying to discourage people because I didn't know what to expect. But we did meet with a lot of the representatives. There were a few meetings canceled, but actually the day before, there were a lot of people at Capitol Hill. And then the Thursday when we went there, that's when they shut it down, but we still had meetings. So that's what the testament to all our fibro warriors that were in DC. We just kept on going. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no one there and they still didn't cancel our meeting, so we showed up and we had a great time. And we had some new members there, like Rick and Jack joined us. And so
Okay.
we were meeting with the reps in Texas. We had some Dr. Pepper they had in the office. So we still kept going. I think that's our dedication. And just again, with Fibromyalgia, we just got to keep going.
Awesome. So we have about a little over 10 minutes left. So what would you say to people who want to join the organization, help support you, that type of thing? And how do people reach you? And, what do you want to say to get your message out to people?
Well, anyone can connect with me through Facebook. I mean, you see me as Melissa Nerdy Talwar on Facebook. Connect with our Facebook page, Support Fibromyalgia. We have a website at supportfibro.org, supportfibromyalgia.org. So we would love to hear from you. I know that Meisha's tried to help me condense stuff because it does sound like a lot, but no experience is required. We do offer a lot of mentorship. That was a big key too. So anyone that wants to get involved, I don't want you to be discouraged. This isn't a clique or some VIP club that you cannot join. This is for everyone. Because if anyone's ever felt like an underdog, I understand. So we invite everybody in, and I would love to hear from all of you out there if you're interested in doing advocacy, patient education, medical education. It's all there for you.
Actually, there's on As Long as You're Breathing web page, on our web page, over on the My Fibro part, there's a link to all of your stuff too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they can get there through us too. So they can get there that way as well. And I want people to do that. I share everything still with all the chronic pain people because I think that I really believe there's power in everybody's story. And I think all the way from whether you're in your vegetable garden working so that so you get your weight back down under control, so you're eating vegetables you've grown yourself, so you're visualizing and you're transmuting negative energies, all the way from that part of your story to how you were holding the Olympic torch and didn't realize that that would end up being on a website later in life where you're leading the way for others to follow you in a fight, literally as a warrior for a chronic pain and visible illness community. Our stories are so important, and so sharing our stories matter. And so I think they matter in the chronic pain and visible illness community. They matter across all boundaries. I don't think there are any boundaries with it. And I think your story is inspirational to everyone, because you don't have to have an illness to be someone who sees an injustice. And so if there's someone out there who has something else that they see an injustice in, how would you recommend that how does somebody do what you do? How does somebody get started doing what you did? Because you didn't know either. So where do you start?
I mean, there's a lot of advocates in different spaces from our chronic illness community. I would start by reaching out to them. I mean, a lot of them write blogs or vlog. Hopefully they'll like get back to you and not think you're a spammer. But I think that's what we're trying to learn is like, how do we mentor new people to get involved and share their story? Because you're absolutely right. It's so important. Everyone has a story. There are a lot of injustices to get involved. So I would reach out to some of those organizations or people, if you can, doing activities, volunteer, even start your own blog right now or vlog and start talking about this stuff. And then other people will come to you that way. So I think that's what we just did, and not being afraid to start. You got to start something. So that's the big thing. You got to take action, right?
Just do it. And you can be an introvert. You don't have to be the quote unquote quintessential leader. You don't have to be the front person naturally to end up being a front person. I mean, your story shows that. Your story shows so many things that you're not the typical, I'm going to start an organization of some sort, and I'm gonna lead the charge to Capitol Hill. And I mean, you're not that person, because you don't like to do those things. I mean, you like to be more in the background, and you like to do the marketing, and I mean, those are the things you like to do. So
of other people. So these interviews, and I mean, I guess my goal wasn't to be a social media influencer. And for those people that like that, like, more power to you, and please help to work to make these changes. But I don't think, please, like, to anyone out there, don't get discouraged by your numbers in social media, because you can still make a difference. Put out the information out there to make changes, especially with starting blogs and things like that, and reach out to people like us who understand that path and who aren't obsessed with numbers or squishing you. It's not about that. And there are good people out there that are willing to support you.
I think another thing that this type of platform is showing is that for every voice, there is a group of people that voice is for. And so whether your voice is for 10 people, your voice is for 100 people, your voice is for 1,000 people, hundreds of thousands of people, use your voice. Don't not use your voice, because that's what's needed, is speak up and be there for the people that you are uniquely qualified and designed to be there for. And then that's when we have fulfilled our purpose. And while you were not, you did not feel like you were a leader, you didn't feel like that's what you were called to do, but you were uniquely qualified for this moment in time, for the type of total flip in what a fibromyalgia or chronic pain or invisible illness organization would look like, and so you were uniquely qualified for that. And so don't think I'm supposed to look this way. This is what a blogger looks like, or this is what an influencer looks like, or this is what a teacher or a mentor, no, you look like what a group of people at a moment in time need you to be. And so that's another thing I think that your story points out, is that the very thing that made your group work and has made the difference is you're not what any of the people before you were. And so I think that's another thing that your story points out.
Absolutely. Be unique, be yourself, be nerdy, whatever it takes. So
absolutely, that's for sure. So post-COVID, what do you see post-COVID? Are we going to go back to doing road trips, and are we going to go back to having fairs and that type of thing, or are things going to stay virtual? What are you seeing post-COVID?
I like the aspect of virtual because I think more people can join. So it'll be a combination of the both. I know we miss interaction. Like I would love to see the support groups get back together in person because I know that camaraderie is needed in person, workshops in person, but we can't forget the virtual aspect. I mean, I know it's difficult. So if there's a hybrid way to do this, we'll figure it out. Because I know even the trip to DC, it takes a lot of energy. So
Exactly.
how can we involve people virtually to make more of an impact? And I'm loving this from the Nerd Watchtower over here. So I'm attending conferences that I wouldn't be able to necessarily attend or be too stressful, especially with the NIH right now. So I'm talking about fibromyalgia nonstop with the NIH because I can be in those meetings virtually and talk about it. So I might be liking this virtual for a while.
Well, it sounds like what it's done is it's opened up avenues to you that before weren't open to you. And now that you have your foot in the door with them, you can keep that. And I think what it's done too is it's shown us, I think it has probably shown us ways to do hybrids when the opportunity comes. And so I think that that's probably a good way to go, because we do need face-to-face stuff. We do need live things happening. People do need to interact. But there is also the stress factor, as you said. People do get stressed, and there is also the expense involved and that sort of thing. And there's the challenge of organizing them. That can be a challenge too. So I do think a hybrid of it is a good idea. But there again, that'll be a new trail you can blaze. You'd be perfect one to do that.
Well, Arizona is one of my first stops, I know, after. So
Arizona, absolutely. That is we are absolutely, as soon as COVID allows, we're going to meet in Arizona. We have to do that. So you gave the website information, and of course they can reach it through my website and all of those things. I'm just so glad that you're finally here and we finally got to tell your story, and that everyone got to spend some time with you. And I'm glad Estelle now knows that that's you in the silhouette with the torch. I didn't think people knew. I kind of thought, I'm like, every time I saw that, I'm like, I don't think everybody knows that's Melissa. I was pretty sure people did.
What silhouette are I like? We'll have to talk later because I just got confused. So I haven't put me in the silhouette. That's actually that's a photo.
Is it not you? See, I thought
no, but I'm glad the interpretation, I guess, that did
not you. I always thought it was you.
Is it not? Really going to put myself in the photo? No.
No, it looks like it's you. I mean, it looks like you. I always thought it was you. So it's not you. No, it's not you. Is it not?
No, the introvert would never put themselves front and center like that. No.
No, but someone in your organization might. So that's not you in the photo then. It's not. Well, I always thought it was you. You should put yourself in it. Oh, did you freeze up again?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I always thought it was you because I knew that you had done that. So I always thought it was you. Well, if it's not you, then we need one of you. Do we have one of you?
No. I think I have an old picture, but it's like really old.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure we can do something with it.
We need a group photo. Well, we have the group photo. So we need like a group like superhero photo.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah. We all need like superhero rings or something.
That's one area. It's like I love my superhero stuff. So, or raised on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, there you go.
I just remember that last episode where she like ignite all the Slayers come to like help. So that's what it always reminds me of. Like let's do this. Like all of us join together.
And that is, I think, a good way to wrap it up. That is what we need to do, and that is what you have done, though. But you started with the ground. You started with the at the ground up is where you started it, and that's grassroots, and that is what needed to be done. So, thank you, Melissa, for being on. Everyone, if you want to know anything about chronic pain, invisible illness, fibromyalgia, how to help. And we know that she carried the torch. That's huge. That's right. So we did get that out there because I really did think it was her in the picture, but I knew that she was not telling people that she'd carried the Olympic torch. So we did get that out there. Thank you, Estelle. So yes, if you want to know anything about how to help, how to get involved with health coaching, how to get a health coach, how to find a health coach, any of these type things, contact Melissa. She'll put you in the right place. And thank you, Melissa Talwar. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Yes. And again, whether you caught us live and have questions, or whether you're catching the replay, just tag us over there and we'll get back to you with and answer your questions. Thank you all. And remember, as long as you're breathing, keep living. See you all later. Bye.